So I want to make sure that we're all going to label these the same way. So I want this to be the generic four-step process for using sampling distribution of p hat to find probability. And because we're going to end up having a lot of these, this is four-step process number 1. And it helps to keep them organized by the fact that this was done in chapter 7. All right, so looking at state, what is the very first thing that we wrote down in state? Population. And I always do stuff in 2 colors. My one color is what I always write down. My second color is what I'll fill in. So then I just define it in context. If you're just going to write all in one color, everything I do in orange, I would put in parentheses or something. Just so you can tell that that's stuff that actually gets changed. All right, so I've written population. So now I write what? Sample. What am I going to write beside of that in orange? Defining context. Then I need to define what? So let P be, well, what's it always going to start with? Then a context. Sorry, defining context. I wasn't going to write define it. I went back and decided to. And then I wrote down what the problem was asking me to do, which is to do what? And now I am writing this way, but not every problem is actually going to look like this. Why? I could have one that's greater than or less, just greater than or just less than or greater than or equal to, something like that. So I'm writing it as 2-sided, but it doesn't have to be. So if you want to make a note of that. How many things are we checking in plan right now? 2. All right, so in plan, what's the first thing we need to check? And I say the first thing, I just try to always keep them in the same order so it's easier to remember. Being out of order doesn't actually really matter. So a 10% condition, usually a lot of times I'll do a question mark just so I'll remember to go back and actually check it because I'm seeing if it is or isn't. I don't care if you do a question mark there. What is my equation for 10% condition? And then so I'm just writing, hey, go back and plug in numbers. And once I plug in numbers, I need to do what? In general, I write what with it? Like there are, there is, and however you want to write that, I'm just going to put right out in context. If you would rather do there is or there are beside of it, that's fine. What's my other condition? Check and see if I can use normal. How do I do that? So I'm plugging in numbers. And then I'm just writing check, check to show that I'm checking them. So at that point, I need to do two things. What's one of them? Looking at the way I wrote it up here, I would write what? Write out in context. If you would rather be more specific there, that's fine. So that would be there are at least 10 ... And then the last thing I have to have, which I'm actually writing in green because it would always have to be this, is what? And writing out there are at least 10 in green would have been fine instead of write out context. So we can use normal approximation. Yeah, that might make more sense to do it that way. The reason I'm writing it like this, which I didn't realize how bright that green is. Technically, if we couldn't, we wouldn't keep going. So like, I have this question a lot, but I don't want you to overthink this. People are like, what happens if I get a problem on the AP exam and it doesn't work? You think the AP exam is really going to give you 6 questions and one of them not work? So that should be a red flag to you that if it says no, that you probably did something wrong. What's going to happen is something like the book does and says, why do you know you can use this? Why couldn't you use this? If you couldn't use this, why not? So it would ask you like a question like that, not give you a full problem and be like, you can't, you have to stop here. So just kind of keep that in mind. I do the same thing on like a test or a quiz. I'm never going to give you a problem where you should stop in the middle of it. I wrote right. That's what I mean by write out in context, which probably would have been better if I had written out more there. So what's the first thing I need here? What does the problem usually give you? And I don't know that in all my answer keys I wrote that up there, but I used them in this part. So then the first equation technically that I plug in is what? Which definitely equals, and that equals, and I'm going to write this as number A, so that when you see in the way I write out my equation that I can see which one's which. I'm going to go a little bit quicker here because this is just writing numbers in. Sigma of p hat, sigma of p times 1 minus p over n. Plug in numbers. Which is going to give us another number, which I'm calling b. And then I use those, so I need here, because 10% condition, yes. So so this here is, I can use this because of this. Yes, thank you. I'm saying I can use standard deviation because of 10% condition is why I wrote that over there. And then my z equals equation, I wrote number A and number B, so I can use it here. Which one goes on the bottom? What goes, does number A go, is that the first number or the second number? And then so I'm just writing this one as, this is a different number. You can just writing like that you're filling in stuff there is fine. I'm being kind of super specific there. And then you'll have area equals number. And now I wrote this as only one Z, but I'm writing this as two Z's. But you would just do that process more than once. These are just numbers that I'm plugging in. What's the only thing that I'm missing? Draw it and shade it. And whatever math needs to be done. I'm just going to go ahead and start writing conclude while y'all are doing that so that hopefully I'll have enough to where y'all can take a picture of it before we walk out. You just told me all of this stuff. I did this before. So that's N. These are the specific individuals. When it actually is true that P equals whatever number they gave us, then the probability that number and direction we're looking for. If y'all need to pack up and just have your phone out to take a picture when you leave, that's fine. In context is. Your homework is going to probably be finish that worksheet. I also have one other problem that's not on the worksheet. I'll probably give you all of them, but you don't have to do the extra one. Your quiz is when. So I'm also going to give you those answers, maybe sooner than later, maybe sooner than I usually do, so that if you want to be going alongside of the answers while you do it, I'm totally okay with that. We've done one before knowing the generic. We just backed up and did the generic. So you going back through and doing the same process with different context shouldn't be terrible. You just have to know the process. But that means definitely email me if you have any questions.
Are you going to homework through the night? Or